Hey everybody, Felix Staffelbaker here. I've got this book, COVID-19, The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab. This guy is the head of the World Economic Forum. This guy is setting global policy. And in his book, I found an astonishing parallel between the stuff that he's saying and the keynote Block 1 B1 June event that happened in June of 2019. And this was absolutely mind-blowing to me. So we're in the macro reset chapter 1.6 technological reset. When it was published in 2016, the fourth industrial revolution, which was also by Klaus Schwab, made the case that technology and digitization will revolutionize everything, making the overused and often ill-used adage, "this time is different," apt. Simply put, major technological innovations that are on the brink of fueling momentous change throughout the world. This is in the 4 short years since, technological progress has moved impressively fast. AI is now all around us, from drones and voice recognition to virtual assistants in translation software. Our mobile devices have become permanent and integral part of our personal and professional lives, helping us on many different fronts, anticipating our needs, listening to us and locating us, even when we do not ask to. Automation and robots are reconfiguring the way businesses operate with staggering speed and returns on scale inconceivable just a few years ago. Innovation in genetics with synthetic biology now on the horizon. It is also exciting, paving the way for developments in healthcare that are groundbreaking. Biotechnology still falls short of stopping, let alone preventing a disease outbreak, but the recent innovations have allowed the identification and sequencing of the coronavirus genome much faster than in the past, as well as the elaboration of more effective diagnostics. In addition, the most recent biotechnology techniques using RNA and DNA platforms make it possible to develop vaccines faster than ever. They might also help with the development of new bioengineered treatments. And so we see just right there in that little passage, they mention drones and they mention healthcare. If you go back and watch the Block 1 B1 June keynote, there's a scene roughly halfway through where Brendan is on stage and he has slides behind him and he's talking about how EOS.IO technology will facilitate the world of healthcare, financing, and drone delivery. And it seemed so obvious, but if you can't find where this is happening in the real world and meeting where technology meets opportunity and it gets implemented onto a global scale, you're going to miss it. But this is so obvious to me, it stuck out like a sore thumb. And I want to read a couple more passages. And this one is still in the macro reset. This is 1.6.1.2, the regulator. This transition towards a more digital of everything in our professional and personal lives will also be supported and accelerated by regulators. To date, governments have often slowed the pace of adoption of new technologies by lengthy ponderings about what the best regulatory framework should look like. But as example of telemedicine and drone delivery is now showing, a dramatic acceleration forced by necessity is possible. Do you understand what's going on right now? During the lockdowns, a quasi-global relaxation of regulations that had previously hampered progress in domains where the technology had been available for years suddenly happened because there was no better or other choice available. What was until recently unthinkable suddenly became possible. And we can be certain that neither those patients who experienced how easy and convenient telemedicine was, nor the regulators who made it possible, will want to see it go into reverse. New regulations will stay in place in the same vein. A similar story is unfolding in the U.S. with the Federal Aviation Authority, but also in other countries related to fast-tracking regulations pertaining to drone delivery. The current imperative to propel, no matter what, the contactless economy, and the subsequent willingness of regulators to speed it up means that there are no holds barred. What is true for until recently sensitive domains like telemedicine and drone delivery, this is also true for more mundane and well-covered regulatory fields like mobile payments. Brendan Blueber literally said mobile payments, healthcare, and drone delivery in his keynote speech. I implore you to listen to me today. Just to provide a banal example, in the midst of the lockdown in April 2020, which was 3 months before this book was written, Europe and banking regulations decided to increase the amount that shoppers could pay using their mobile devices while also reducing the authentication requirements that made it previously difficult to make payments using platforms like PayPal and Venmo. Such moves will only accelerate the digital prevalence in our daily lives, albeit notwithstanding contingent cybersecurity issues. And I want to read one more passage. 1.6.1.3, the firm. The firm, in one form or another, social and physical distancing measures are likely to persist after the pandemic itself subsides, justifying the decision in many companies from different industries to accelerate automation. After a while, the enduring concerns about technological unemployment will recede as societies emphasize the need to restructure the workplace in a way that minimizes human contact. Indeed, automation technologies are particularly well suited in a world in which human beings can't get too close to each other or are willing to reduce their interactions. Our lingering and possibly lasting fear of being infected with a virus, COVID-19 or another, will thus speed the relentless march of automation, particularly in the field most susceptible to automations. In 2016, 2 academics from Oxford University came to the conclusion that up to 86% of jobs in restaurants, 75% of jobs in retail, 59% of jobs in entertainment could be automated by 2035. These 3 industries are among those the hardest hit by the pandemic, and in which automation for reasons of hygiene and cleanliness will be a necessity that in turn will further accelerate the transition towards more tech and more digital. There is an additional phenomenon to support the expansion of automation when economic distancing might follow social distancing. As countries turn inward and the global companies shorten their super efficient but highly fragile supply chains, automation and robots that enable more local production while keeping costs down will be in great demand. The process of automation was set in motion many years ago, but the critical issue once again relates to the accelerating pace of change and transition. The pandemic will fast forward the adoption of automation in the workplace and the introduction of robots in our more personal and professional lives. From the onset of the lockdown, it became apparent that robots and AI were a natural alternative when human labor was not available. Furthermore, they were used whenever possible to reduce the health risks to human employees. At a time when physical distancing became an obligation, robots were deployed in places as different as warehouses, supermarkets, and hospitals in a broad range of activities, from shelf scanning, an area in which AI has made tremendous forays, to cleaning and, of course, robotic delivery. As soon to be important component of healthcare supply chains that will turn and lead to the contactless delivery of groceries and other essentials. As for many other technologies that were on the distant horizon in terms of adoption, like telemedicine, businesses, consumers, and public authorities are now rushing to turbocharge the speed of adoption. In cities varied as Hangzhou, Washington, D.C., and Tel Aviv, efforts are underway to move from pilot programs to large-scale operations capable of putting an army of delivery robots on the road and in the air. Listen to this. Chinese e-commerce giants like Alibaba and JD.com are confident that in the coming 12 to 18 months, autonomous delivery could be widespread in China much earlier than anticipated prior to the pandemic. You guys, they are laying out the case, and this was in 2020. They were saying 12 to 18 months, so it's obviously being pushed back a little bit. But how come there is a book written by somebody who is in absolute control, able to implement this, talking about the exact same thing that yves was talking about doing by Brendan Bloomer at the Block 1 B1 June event? And that was years ago. They even said in here, automation has been set in motion years before, and only because the pandemic now is it able to be accepted by the globe. I can't tell you guys how this is coming. Like, yves is here. Do you guys understand? If you're not paying attention now and you're not getting it now, you'll never get it. So I just want to put that out there. You know, B1 June was the Great Reset. yves is the Great Reset. You can invest in the base layer technology of the Great Reset and make yourself into an asset machine, and you'll be able to thrive in the coming hardships that, if you don't have yves, will totally wipe you out. So I just want to put that out there. I mean, this is a fantastic read, really heavy stuff, but there is so much info in here that they're just letting you know exactly what's coming, and all you have to do is just literally say okay and then invest in it. So I just want to put that out there. Stoffel Baker out.